Hey folks, and welcome back to another podcast here on the LUNC Continental podcast. I've finally given it a name. It took so long to find something that sort of suits, but I feel that's a name that has really just stuck with me over time now, and that's definitely what I'm going for. But I've got a miniature podcast for all of you just to get you up to date and keep you up to date as to what we're thinking, what's going on, and what the movement of trajectory is here. So I've got StrathCole on for everybody, and we're more or less going to be bringing you up to speed with everything that's been going on with 11738 and what the plan is after that. So Strafe, welcome back to the channel. We're going to be doing a few of these as the weeks roll out, no doubt, so get used to these ones, folks.
Hey, good evening.
So as to this proposal for us, it's not something that we ever we thought of and thought, this is going to be really easy to do. Everybody's going to agree to this. Yes, decentralization it's not as simple as that, is it? A lot of these validators, they work on a business mindset, and as to which, if you've got high VP, this commission simply means, guess what? You're losing all of that high VP over a certain amount of time if this does get implemented, so to speak. We've had Allnodes vote on it, and that's huge. I mean, it's huge to get a yes vote from someone like that who are going to be heavily affected by this, right?
Yeah, of course, because I mean, they currently sit at a 10% commission, and when this gets implemented, they would immediately be raised to a 20% commission. So that would affect them because, yeah, I think they would lose some delegations.
One microphone. So I'm so sick, it's unbelievable. I'm quite shocked that we did get a yes vote from Allnodes for the specific reason that it does literally hit them the hardest. It's going to hit them the hardest out of everybody. And this is, I said in my tweet, this is a sacrifice we've all got to make. This isn't something that even myself will not be affected by or will be affected by it. But we've all got to make these sacrifices if we want to see this blockchain grow, if we want to see it flourish.
Yeah, I mean, it is mostly the top validators that will be affected, and it's not a simple decision, but it is simple choices. So either you decide to try to take from the chain what is left until it goes down, or you sacrifice something of your own income, time, or whatever, and try to revive it and make it profitable in the midterm or long term. And so I'm glad that Allnodes supports it. I hope that others support it too. We have quite a lot of yes votes already. That is really nice to see. And of course, if it passes, it's not that we didn't talk to L1 before, but we couldn't let them test it, implement it before it was even voted on. So there's still testing and work and research to do after it because, yeah, it hasn't been done before. And so I think it is doable, in my opinion, and from what I got as feedback, but it will be some work. And I hope once it passes, if it passes, then I hope it will get implemented soon.
We always knew this was all going to be work at the end of the day. This whole idea of thinking everything's just going to be there, it's going to be readily available, and it's going to be ready to rock, ready to use, and anything we ever need is just going to be there waiting for us to pick it up and use it. But that's not the case if we want these real sort of dynamic systems, so to speak, and we want to usher in a new kind of change, then you've got to start thinking outside of the box. You can't keep thinking to yourself, well, there's not much we can do, it's centralized, and you've really got to start thinking to yourself, what can I do as a person to make change? And, I didn't think this would even get relatively close to even getting to this scale of being able to pass. Ultimately, it still could be voted down, and it still could have a lot of people go against it because this benefits. If you're a small validator, this is really going to benefit you. If you're a new validator, this is going to benefit you so greatly that what we hope to see, right, Strafe, is the active set stop going every month from 121 to 117, and then the next month it's gone 117 to 114. You're going to see that drop to 110 likely by the next month. You've got nodes like Classy Crypto, which are simply dropping out. It's just going to keep dropping, and we hope that this is going to bring a level of incentive which goes, oh, wait, hey, I've got an opportunity, and hey, things aren't so centralized anymore. It's one of those ones where it's going to be a lot of work, but we know it can work. We know that this is doable, it's buildable, it's testable, and it could possibly change everything as long as we get it implemented correctly. But like you were saying, all of this will always require, pull requests, and it's always going to require input from someone else, right? We're never going to be able to pull all of this off ourselves because we can't implement it.
Yeah, this applies mainly for the L1 stuff like this. We can implement other things that we have in mind in the vision paper that are more level 2. But regarding this proposal, I think I want to get back to the commission situation. A while back, there was the minimum 5% commission introduced, which was made mainly to address that bigger validators lowered the commission to 0% and gained delegations and gained more delegations and so on, because they could afford to run at a 0% commission without problems. And so this 5% was to address this. But the issue with it is that lower voting power validators, new validators, they also had to take a minimum commission of 5 and couldn't use lower commission to advertise for a period of time until their voting power rises a bit. So we couldn't simply say, oh, we get rid of the 5% minimum commission again, because this would just have led to the same situation that we had before, with high validators also being able to put a lower commission. And so this kind of minimum commission based on voting power was already proposed or mentioned on Twitter nearly a year ago, but no one ever followed it and phrased it out and things like that. So I think that's one of the reasons why it is taken well by the validators right now that have already voted, because it is kind of a necessity to improve or try to improve decentralization, and there's not much else that you can do, because the voting power cap, to lower it to, for example, 10% or 8%, was already mentioned by some validators they would never agree to. So that would also not address the concentration of voting power in the top section. Yeah, so I really hope this will pass, and I hope there is no issues with implementation, and it really has the outcome that we hope for.
Yeah, and if other people are wondering kind of how we go about the stuff we do here with our own projects and the road we walk, we don't take shortcuts. We don't think to ourselves, oh, we'll take this road because it will get us there quickly. We think to ourselves, what is the best way for us to produce what we have spoken about? What's the best way to cultivate this idea? What's the best way to get it from an idea to launch and get that concept actually working in place? And we've worked a lot of projects together, and we've worked a load of different sort of ideas for other people that have come to us, and we don't build half-assed stuff, so to speak. This dynamic commission module has the power to more or less change the playing field and equalize it not even in an intrusive manner or a forced manner, but a fair manner. Because if we look at, our sister blockchain Luna, what was it, Strafe? Nobody has over 4%, right?
I haven't looked recently. I think the most should be around 4%, but I don't know the actual standings. At least it's nothing over 5%, I think.
So over time, folks, you would think, it would gradually ease up. People would become more aware of things. And I think there's a lot of people who sit there and they ask themselves, why do people continue to stake with these big nodes? And I don't think it's actually a situation like that. I think a lot of these nodes, they've got projects elsewhere. They've got people who stake LUNC from other stuff. And, I think there's a lot that has been built up over an amount of time, and it's just never, ever going to get better. It's never ever eased up. It's never got better. In fact, going from from the United Vision, then picking out the first thing we wanted to do, moving to that and saying to ourselves, Strath saying to me, Jay, what should we do first? Well, the commission's a real problem. It's only getting worse. And, proof of that actually happening is watching that index go from a 4 to a 3. It's as much
I
proof as
think
you ever needed.
it alternates between 3 and 4 currently. I think right now it's back to 4 again, but it's very close to 3. But I also think many don't really know what the Nakamoto means. The Nakamoto coefficient is just a small number. It's not really something big, but it has a huge meaning. So if you think about the blockchain, what you always have to keep in mind that you need 2/3 of the validators to run the blockchain, to continue running it. As soon as more than 1/3, so more than 33.3% would halt the chain, it wouldn't continue running correctly. And the same with governance. More than 33.3% can veto any decision if they want it. And that means the Nakamoto just shows how many validators are necessary to reach those 33.3%. Of course, that means the higher the Nakamoto, the better. And currently, we only need the top 3 to top 4 validators. And we are quite lucky that they don't have those bad intentions, because they could have really done something.
I think I think it runs deeper than that at this point. I honestly believe it's gotten way out of hand to a point where, you know, validators are required to make decisions, right? If you go to the everyday person in a survival situation, you give them information, but you fail to provide that there's only a certain supply of food, and they're just chomping through food because they believe what they have been led to believe, that there's not an issue with food. We've got food, cool, we can eat it. What we're seeing is this, lack of consideration and care, especially with that abstaining on things that are quite important. It's not good that, that's always there, because those bigger validators being so high up, a lot of people look to them for not information, but a sign as to, what's right, what's wrong. There's never real, there's never a level of people sitting down and explaining and going, hey, look, if we vote to this now, there's going to be this later. We've got this to think about. It's just a simple yes, no, or abstain. It's never much of a thought. And, we're at a point now, like Strafe was just saying, I think the best way to break down the Nakamoto efficient and how this realistically works is to go to a governance proposal, scroll down to the bottom, and you'll see the veto threshold, which is 33.40. The top validators can stop anything. If they want to stop it, they can stop it. And it's as simple as that. That's not good. That's a very centralized way of having power. And, you'll have so many more people voting. We'll start to create what I believe is a competitive environment. Do you ever think about the day when we actually get an active set, Strafe?
You mean after the new validators could join again?
Yeah, once the new validators could join and, we reached the 130 limit, a lot of people don't understand why validating it's like driving a vehicle, right? It's not, you don't have a right to drive on the roads. It's a privilege. You have a privilege that you can drive on those roads. And I think validating's become a bit of a joke on our blockchain as to which you can you can get like 1,000 LUNC delegated with your validator and boom, you're in the active set. It's as simple as that. There is no entry level. There is no fight to get in. There is no one setting the bar at 130 and saying, hey, I've got 10 billion staked with me. If you want to enter the active set, you better knock me out, baby. We're going to bring, well, we hope we're going to start to bring a level of friendly competitiveness where we saw at the beginning of all of this people fighting to get into the Luna active set. People saying, delegate your Luna with us, we'll burn LUNC and, help us get into the active set so we can get rewards. We don't have that kind of environment. There is no one fighting to get in.
No, true. We only, at the current point, I think, have 113 bonded, so active validators, 9 dropping out currently from 122. So yeah, it's not really much because the 113 means currently really 17 validators could simply join without any delegations and be in the active set. I mean, it wouldn't hurt the chain really much because they wouldn't have voting power to block or decide anything. But it's just it's as Jay said, it's not competitive. You don't need to do anything to reach the active set. You don't need to kind of advertise for delegations. Currently, it's not necessary, and it would be nice to have it at a point where you need at least a few million delegations to reach the active set.
Yeah, and builders, how can somebody come to this blockchain with an idea, right? And think to themselves, well, I don't want to ask the community for money. I don't want to do some kind of loan. I don't want to do a crowdfunding thing. I don't want to do Patreon. I don't want to do anything like that. I just want to build. I've got an idea. Right, you could start a validator, right? You could start to build. Where could you get funds from? Your commission. Okay. If you become to a point of where, say, you can run from your house, you can run from a data center, and you can run for a good price, and you start to have spare LUNC and USTC, well, and you can then utilize that to build stuff. And that's what we're seeing with some nodes. So some of the new guard nodes like DF-LUNC, they've built, a burn protocol which burns, quite a lot, to be fair to it. And that's what we need. We need more projects like that. You've got people like Afsal who are building different kind of smart contracts for airdrop systems and, cashback systems and all of that. Yeah, ultimately they're building, but they're not trying to build a Terraport, or they're not trying to build a DEX off chain, and they're not trying to build a token. They're just building things for the blockchain. And that's what we need. That's what me and Strafe keep saying to a lot of people is, as selfish as it sounds, it's not really that selfish to build something and go, I'm going to build this into the blockchain. This will make the blockchain better. You've recently developed a token factory, Strafe, and there's a lot of other people who are also following this road now, but you have just given it to the blockchain, right?
Yeah, I mean, the contracts are nearly ready, and once it's totally ready, UI is done, then it will be open source for the blockchain. I would try to choose a license that is open source but does not allow taking the code in a commercial environment without contributing the changed or added code back. to the chain. So I hope with that we will then have the first project that is really only owned by the chain, no project builders that own it, and controlled through on-chain governance. That I think that's the mid to long-term goal that we need to have, that we find new use cases for the chain that also provide funding to the chain, to the community pool, to the Oracle pool, depending on where it sits at that time. That's something that we badly need. And so I try to do it with that token factory and order book. So hopefully that works out.
I don't even think it's a thing where you need to. It's more of a field of dreams. Like, you've got to build these things for people to come and utilize them. And when someone builds a DEX and goes, "So I build this for myself. I'm going to create a coin. I'm going to create my own system. I'm going to name it my DEX." You could have seen probably like 3 different DEXs now be built for the blockchain, and just go, "I'm just going to give it to the blockchain. The blockchain could utilize this. Our station could utilize all of this technology. If I build it in, everybody can prosper." Biggest issue is you're never ever going to realistically see a lot of people do that, because most people believe if I'm working, I should be paid. And do you remember at the beginning, Strafe? Everybody was in this for the dream, right? The dream of revitalizing a blockchain. Nobody wanted to be paid, did they? How many times did we suggest they create a node, they get delegates with them, and they use that to pay their running costs? How many times did we say that? And they're like, no. We don't need to be paid. We're here because we're going to get paid when LUNC goes to the moon.
I think the issue currently is that the coin didn't go to the moon yet. The price is kind of as low as it hasn't been since the crash, I think. And even with delegations, you need quite a lot of them to gain a real income from it, not a bit of funding, but a real income. So building without payment is a bit of an issue in terms how you get your personal income for your real life. And so I'm in the fortunate situation that I gain enough from my real life job that I can use my free time that is left after family to build something that I don't need to get paid for, just with the hope that it benefits the chain and at some point drives the price, and then I will get something back from it. But that doesn't mean everyone can do it, depending on what he's working in real life, how much he earns, how much time he can spend on it. And so, yeah, it would be nice if we would have some that can afford it, that can build something without needing the community pool for funding. But I guess at some point we will need funds from there to pay developers to build something that is chain owned.
But the biggest issue with paying a developer to build something that's chain owned is, the likelihood is it's not ever going to happen. We've seen that time and time again, that relying on people that you pay to perform a task, it never really goes that way. We have witnessed that. This situation which surrounds the idea of, like you were just saying, right? Me and you, we're very, well, I wouldn't say, you said we're blessed, right? We're not blessed. We've worked hard. We've worked hard to ensure that our in real life work is balanced out enough that we can spend time here for free doing what we enjoy. Because this is what it comes down to, right? We both enjoy doing this. Even with all of the grief, all of the things that come with it, we enjoy it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here doing what we do if we didn't believe, LUNC can do a 13x again, and we can hold those kind of price levels, it's, we just wouldn't be here.
Yes, I love the technology, and of course, I could maybe look into other chains, but mm, I have decided quite early that I will dig into the technical things of this chain, into the mechanics, and everything I am doing currently is built around this chain. That doesn't mean that I won't implement something that makes use of IBC or spread market among other chains, but my focus is LUNC, and I will be here as long as my real life allows it. And um, I hope this won't be when the chain dies, but it will be when it prospers.
And a whole new, like generation of builders come in, and we become this coin where everybody wants to get involved. And there's a huge misconception at the moment that's really annoying me, is that LUNC is nothing without USTC. And it's really irritating because ultimately USTC is nothing without LUNC, because that was what was used to maintain the peg. That was what was used as its liquidity to keep it where it was. So USTC is nothing without LUNC, but I don't believe that's the case with either or. And I don't think anybody trying to sell you this idea of putting your eggs all into one basket, it's not healthy. It's not healthy to just think to yourself, that's the only solution. If that doesn't work, I'm out of here. There's so much we could build. And it's been a year, right, Strafe? It's been a year and 4 months to be precise. I've got evidence of these on ramps and these off ramps and all of these other marvelous things being spoken about back in like May, June, July. And we're still here now. We still don't have those very basic things. And it's like, if we could just get all of these basic things and we could start to get a solid, base to build on, maybe more people will come and build. Maybe more people will realize, oh, look, they're filling up the CPU, or they're doing this, they're decentralizing things. Wow, look at all of these good things. People are talking. It's something you can't force, right, Strafe? We can't force any of this. It's something that it just has to be done organically, kind of like LUNC Penguins and the auto compound module. Nothing gets forced here. It's all well thought out, and it's all, we try to cover as many bases as we can with things like this. And, everybody's human. If you was to get everything right, it would be very peculiar. You'd be a very strange person. You probably, have an IQ higher than Einstein, which is like above 160. And ChatGPT 4 is not even at that stage yet. So it would just be strange, right? So everybody's going to make mistakes and stuff like that. But, you know, building in LUNC right now is what is going to have the most benefit, I believe, if you're willing to get involved in something, you're willing to build on a chain for a better future, because you're going to be in it so early, and you would have been part of, all of the teething problems, all of the growing problems. You'll know the ins, you'll know the outs, and you'll become a wise person sat on your mountain saying to people, hey, I remember when, Allnodes had nearly 20% voting power. And you'll look back at all of this, I believe, in time to come, and you'll see to yourselves, hey, we made the right decisions here. So I'm really hopeful that this is going to pass. I have no doubt that you are as well, Strafe, because, it's not, how do they say, it's not over until the fat lady sings? Is that how they say
I don't know, not my native language, so
it?
it's not easy. But as you said, I think the most important thing currently we can do is trying to achieve an environment that is suitable for building, and that, of course, includes decentralization of voting power, because even if you think of the top validators as being the good guys and they haven't done anything wrong regarding the chain, then you would still feel the risk of having that much centralization. If you take on the effort of wanting to build on the chain and wanting to invest a lot of your own time and money, yeah, you want to minimize the risk. And currently, in terms of decision making, it is quite a high risk on LUNC because you don't know how it will develop if, for example, the top nodes would decide so no, our way or no way, and that is something that decentralized voting power would address, and I hope that we can reach that.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So yeah, Allnodes voting yes to this. It's it's a sign that, you know, that top validator is willing to jump in. They're willing to make a huge sacrifice, because we spoke about this idea of being able to cover, for example, you know, a running cost of $40,000 a quarter. I mean, the voting power you needed was substantial. I think it was upwards of like 36%, right?
For 5% commission, yes, I think.
You know, that's not a joke. That's like something that no one should ever have. 36%, that, you know,
No,
you are the Nakamoto index at that point. You're
yeah,
everything. You're the whole thing, baby.
yeah. Luckily, that is not possible for a single node because we have that voting power cap at 20%, but still, two nodes could reach that amount.
But now let's think to ourselves, folks. Let's walk the path. Let's play the opposite of devil's advocate, and let's think to ourselves, how could this best work out? Well, in say a year, things have got better. There's a more equal playing field. Commission's more balanced out. Everything's more decentralized. We've got these on ramps. We've got these off ramps. We've got people KYC. We're getting trust from Fireblocks. The price starts to rise. Say we do a 13x, right? Yes. Then running costs of $40,000 for someone is going to be achievable, because the price of LUNC would have risen so much. You know, commission then becomes worth so much more. And this is the idea behind a lot of people who built on Luna originally. If you look at Luna Punks, their rewards are nothing now, because they're based on an old system where one LUNC coin was worth $112 to $116 a coin. So on average, you were getting in rewards from your Luna Punk $116 every like month or 2 months, which was a considerable amount for an NFT back then at that time in crypto. That doesn't work like that anymore, because it's based on an old system, and it's one of those ones. We're gonna see a lot of change over the next year, and especially as we try to, you know, because in the perfect environment, right, Strafe, we get this whole united vision done, dusted, proposed, and put in place. We get it all there. You know, you start to see these better environments, and that's not us saying, yeah, we're going to be able to do all of this, and, you know, we're going to make it all go to the moon. We're not saying that. We're telling you is, you've got us. We're here. We've sat there on the sidelines. We've stood back. We've watched as other things have happened, and we're here now to just try and help this. Because if we don't, it just feels like, doesn't it, Strafe, that the whole thing's just going to collapse at some point if everybody just keeps taking.
You know, I think the main thing currently is that we need people to develop ideas to make the environment healthier. That doesn't really need, it is necessarily directly related to the price or to repack or whatever, those kinds. It is just trying to get people come up with ideas to improve the environment for validators, the environment for builders, and also the environment for the community. So ideas welcome. I think everything should be discussed. Maybe there's something that can end up in a proposal at one time, and I think it isn't enough even if we try to, yeah, make our brain around ideas, what we could improve, what could be built. There will always be people that have other ideas that are beneficial, and we need those ideas.
Yeah, it's sometimes I always find to myself, sometimes the simple people have real good solutions because they think a lot less complex. And their mind doesn't dive sometimes as deep into things, and getting a simple response can sometimes lead to a lot more than you believe. And we've walked routes, haven't we, before, Strafe, where we're like, should we do this? And we're sort of like, is it going to make a difference? Is it really going to make a difference if we do build this and we do implement it? No. Does it make sense through the numbers? No, not really. Okay, what are the community going to think about it? Well, they're going to love it, right? And that's what makes the difference with certain things that we've gone out and built. And I think that's something with like these auto compound modules, right? To a developer, they seem quite pointless because you can just compound, can't you? Yourself. It takes what, 10 seconds?
Yeah.
If you have an autofill, system on your phone, which, banks all of your passwords, you're talking 2 seconds. It's one of those ones. But those things, for people who are in this community, they want things to use. They want things to utilize. They want arbitrage opportunities, and they want all of these great things. It's, if you build it, people will utilize it. But if you just sit there talking about building it and then don't build it, people don't get to utilize it, and then they start to get sour. And I never we don't like to bring things forward, do we, Strafe, that we don't have any intentions of fulfilling what we've brought forward. And this is something time and time again you'll see with the multi-signature wallet, right? This 800 million USTC, which was supposed to be confirmed burnable, and it's, we're still waiting. And it's like, it's not nice to keep the community thinking they're going to get these things and then they don't get these things. And yeah, it's just not nice.
I think you should try to really propose things that you can achieve yourself. Of course, you need other people you have to rely on if it's beyond what you can do yourself. Like, for example, the current proposal needs L1 involvement. That's something that is necessary. But I want to say something back to the building stuff, because I think currently we are in a situation where builders can try unconventional ideas. The the chain doesn't have that much projects on it. So you don't have that much competition. If you try something that no one has tried before, that maybe sounds a bit strange or unconventional, that maybe wouldn't work on another chain because the community is different. So maybe some people think, no, this idea is stupid. That wouldn't be making sense to build. But I think we're currently in a situation, if you can afford the time, if you can afford spending or losing the money it takes to develop, why not? It's at least a try, right?
If we look at, yeah, when we first spoke about the hatching the whole hatching contracts and the way the hatchery would work, it was like, how are we going to get this to work? How are we going to do this? But we got there, right? And I never ever thought, and I can honestly say this to the community, I never thought writing that all down on pen and paper when I, couldn't use my legs, that we would ever get it to a point of where it would work. And we've utilized it, and it's one of the most addictive ways to like mint an NFT I've ever seen.
But that is something that I meant. It is an unconventional way of minting, for example, and I wasn't even sure if it would get adopted, because people are used to simply go to the market and buy or click and mint, maybe with a mystery box. But yeah, doing it a totally different way was really interesting for me to develop. Um, but it was also a bit, yeah, uncertain how it would be adopted. And so that's kind of what I meant also. Try something that could work, but maybe also doesn't work. It's just trying new things.
That's it. And we never know if these things are going to work out. We never know if it's going to do the whole concept of being able to create a bottleneck between the buyer and what's buyable, because you're always going to suffer as an NFT person who wants to create a project. You're going to have a whale that's going to want to buy a ton of your NFTs, and he's going to want to flip them. He's going to want to flip them for 20% up, and he's going to do that with a lot of them. Him, her, they, them. I'm digging a hole, but you get the point. When we introduced that module, it wasn't something where they could simply just go boom, 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 right, I've minted 30. It slowed everything down. It prevented a huge mint out. OG Penguins, what was it? 21 hours? I don't think it was 21 hours, was it?
Yeah, 21, I think.
21 hours. That's not normal. We knew that it's good to get your project, booming out and selling, but you don't want it all going to one person, right? You want to try to create these new situations. And once again, think outside of the box. So I think something for people to take in is you as a person, right? You may not have the tools that you require to do these things that you're thinking of, right? This is when you go and you work with somebody, right? You accept that, hey, you don't know everything, and hey, you could do with some help, and maybe I could get this to work if I could find someone who understands Python or something like that. It's one of those ones, isn't it, Strafe? We never planned to meet each other. We didn't wake up that morning and go, oh, I'm going to meet this person today, and we're going to be really, really good. And we're going to start building together. It's never like that. And if everybody thinks that it's all, rainbows and daisies over here between me and my Strafe here, it's not. It's we disagree on a lot of stuff, but we work together to reach really good things. And it's always, nobody ever, it's never like, oh, it's my way or the highway. It's always, right, we meet in the middle. How can we best make this work? And there's someone out there that could be like not so much the perfect match for you, but they could be someone that you bounce off really well. I think a lot of people believe that, a lot of people who create projects, they do it alone and they go at it solo and it's just one person. It's not. A lot of these projects, they're big teams, right, Strafe?
I think not. No, there are. I think the only big teams in. I don't know when you call it a big team. I don't know, for example, how many people Terraport has, but I don't know of other projects that have that many people involved. So this currently is not the environment where big teams are taking the risk against that, because I think big team mostly means big money.
Yep.
And investing that on a Nakamoto 4 or 3 chain is probably, yeah.
But it wasn't. But it wasn't always like this. If you remember, right, we did have big projects. We did have big teams. I think LBK was a team of like 8-9 developers. I think, Exodus, it was a huge team, and it's the same with Terraport. They are actually a relatively big crew, and things just got worse and worse and worse and worse to a point where a lot of these projects and a lot of these sort of dexes and stuff like that, what they took when they took it was worth a lot more when they took it, and a lot of them would utilize it over time to build and develop, and that just got crushed. It just got absolutely crushed.
Yeah, the issue is when you for example sell something for funding, and then you need to decide, do you sell directly to change it to fiat to pay for things and keep it in fiat, or if you want to keep it in LUNC and wait a bit until you change it. And that's a risk you are taking as a project, because if it goes down like it did now, then you might end up with funding issues. While when it would have gone down, would have gone up 2 times, for example, you would, yeah, have had double the funds to spend. So it's always a tough decision, I think, as a project, which route you want to go with, with the coins you receive.
I think, a lot of people see projects as they come, they go, they come, they go sort of thing. But I think this is, it's like being at the whim of the ocean, right? You can't fight it. And as much as you want to fight it, as much as you want to keep developing, you want to keep building stuff, you don't build correctly the first time round. The second time, it gets harder and harder and harder for you to keep funding coming in, to keep everything going and keeping the lights on. And, we could get to a point again where there are people wanting to come and build, and we're what I would say is prime real estate for gaming companies right now, because we have a substantial supply of LUNC coins. So there's a lot to go around, right? There's a lot to be utilized. And even casinos, they're like the scum of the earth in my mind. It's my own personal opinion. Gambling's a real naughty thing in England. I've seen a lot of different people lose their lives to it, houses, livelihoods, families, everything. But ultimately, casinos generate a lot. And if you use it responsibly, that's why they're legal at the end of the day, if you get the right licenses. We need all of these things again. We need people to start building. LUNC has gone through rug pull after rug pull after rug pull. It was the Terraport situation. It was how many coins did we watch do the whole burn trick before, all of the ones that are here now. I mean, we've witnessed some crazy stuff.
Yeah, it's not easy being here on LUNC, to be honest. It's not always easy. Yes, sometimes I think to myself, what am I doing here? But on the other hand, it's I think most of the people building have been around nearly since the crash last year, and have grown with the chain, so to speak. Have been tied to the chain in a way, because it's been a long road we went. Yeah, I simply hope we can onboard new developers that try to build something. I know I said we need something that is chain owned, but that doesn't mean we don't need other projects. Of course, we need project owned projects that are built to make money for the project owners. We need those too. That's out of question.
100%, 100%. I know there's going to be a lot of people who'd be like, look at these guys, look at these chumps, look, I want us all to give everything to the chain and us get nothing. It's not like that. We're like a baby and we don't even know how to use our legs yet, right? And everybody wants us to go to school already. They want us to go to sports classes. They want us to go to skiing classes and English classes and all these different classes, but we're just a little baby. If we all continue to just grab what we can and accept the chains dying, then that's what's going to happen. If people don't stop, turn around and start going against the flow and saying, hey, we shouldn't be doing this and we shouldn't be pillaging, we shouldn't be plundering. And, there's a time and a place for everything, right? And there's going to be a time and a place where projects are going to come build, and they're going to build because of a specific reason. They're going to be able to make money. Right. And that's just the way things work. But that's good for us, because at that point, we should have all of our own systems, right? We shouldn't be in this constant feedback loop of nothing ever getting developed, but only ever maintaining the system. And that's it. We're just paid to keep the lights on, right, Strafe?
At the moment, yeah. We currently pay what we pay to keep the chain up to date, or bring it up to date first, then keep it up to date. And yeah, there's not really much that is left to be developed in terms of real projects that are chain owned currently, yes.
So the chain itself has actually seen more than $1 million worth of funding within the past year and 4 months, and still no on ramps, right? So I think it's time, you know, something changes, and change comes from people who want to see that change and can see that this can all be a better place. So, like we were saying at the beginning of all of this, we're really, really hoping this one gets through, right? It even affects people like myself. We're all making sacrifices to try and make this an equal playing field for everyone. So, Strafe, let's walk them through, the ideal environment of how this is going to go down. Let's say it passes. What's going to happen for the community next? What should they expect from us?
Yeah, once this proposal would pass, we would go in close contact with L1 and yeah, speak about the actual implementation. And I hope that this can be done in, yeah, I call it midterm because I guess that it will not be something that can go into the current quarter just because of what has been in the original spend proposal. But maybe if there's time left, maybe it will be even there. Otherwise, it probably would be included in the next. But that doesn't mean we couldn't plan everything beforehand. And once it would be implemented by, uh, yeah, by the team, then it could be tested, which I would, of course, say we are involved with testing because we would want to make sure that it is working in the way we expected it. Like, yeah, when does the commission change happen and such things. And once it then goes live on chain, hopefully after an upgrade proposal for the chain, we hope to see that the commission adjustments will help that redelegations happen. And that doesn't mean people have to delegate or redelegate to my node, for example. And that's not important for me. It's really that I hope, and I think Jay also hopes, that the bigger validators will have, yeah, a drop in their delegations while also having a rise in the commissions, so they will probably not lose much in terms of income. They will sacrifice one from for the other. And finally, after quite a bit of time, I think it hopefully balances out, so the voting power will be more equal. I don't expect that it is totally equal, so we will probably never have Nakamoto of something around uh, 30 or something like that. That would be delusional. Um, but I hope we can get it up to at least 10 or 12 or 13 and improve from that point. Maybe we need further things to improve decentralization, but
But
we
this
need
is
to
a big
start
start.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a big start. So for me, if I was someone who was on the L1 team, I personally would drop everything I was doing to ensure that something like this got into place as soon as possible. The reason why I would do this is because we've got an upgrade which is real close now, right?
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, so this upgrade, it could be worked into something like that. Obviously, that is real hopeful, but this kind of thing isn't. I don't even want to say, we're in a state of emergency, but honestly, we're in a state of emergency where, we, a lot of people have asked, why have you voted no to the repeg, Jay? Because we can't finance everything. And I think, you feel the same. The funding's just not there. The thinking's just not there. And it's all just become very immature. It's all negligence and, just ignore it until it becomes an actual issue.
It's a tough topic, Jay. I think I have talked quite a bit about my thoughts about it, and about the community pool funds and the spendings currently. It really, it for us, it's not much left than saying what we did, that we see an issue there with the funding situation. What the community and other person make of it is really not inside our capabilities. And yeah, we need to live and go from where this outcome leads us to, whatever it may be. So, I mean, uh, even if we say we shouldn't fund this or that until we have matured in terms of self funding of the chain, we will need to find ways for ourselves and the chain to go from there if it happens nonetheless. So that's how we try to approach things, try to plan things. But if it doesn't go that way, you can say, okay, that's it for me. You have to try to find another way for it.
Yeah, that's it. For me in these situations, right? I always believe as a validator, I have a responsibility to ensure that my delegates have, the right information and we're not withholding things back from them, like, the funding situation. But ultimately, that's all you can do. A lot of people, will ignore it, they'll hold it back, but that's down to them. I always believe if you're well informed, you've got all of the information, you can make better decisions as someone who is, part of the community. And when you're missing those chunks of information, people act like it's not, an issue. It's one of those ones. What I myself really wanted to see for what's going on with funding is the three teams get together and just simply say to themselves, look, it is not looking good. We should probably figure this out between us. Go to the community, explain to them this is how we're going to get over it. But ultimately, you can't have your cake and eat it too, I guess. But this dynamic commission module, it's gonna change so much, but it's not gonna be instant, folks, right? You need to remember that. It's not gonna be this is gonna pass and then boom. It's gonna be implemented. This is the one of the biggest things on the United Vision, right, Strafe, alongside the ban tax, which we don't know if we can or can't do. It's just an idea we're cultivating and we're sort of going around and doing our investigations about. But ultimately, this is probably one of the hardest things on the list. It's the hardest to implement. It was the hardest to propose. It was the hardest to get passed. And it requires, input from other people other than ourselves. But a lot of the other stuff on this list, it's L2 stuff. It's all stuff that can be done relatively, faster than whipping up a whole new commission system.
Yeah, I think so. Of course, also the L1 parts of the paper take some effort, but at least it's something I can do myself if necessary, right?
Yeah. That's the important thing about this, folks. There's going to be a lot of people that walk around and say, "Oh no, it's just them. They can't do this." Ultimately, we can do this, right? It's not like that. Everything's going to be a lot easier if people cooperate, in a sense, right? So, but we can't count our chickens that have not hatched, if that makes sense. We can't count that these people are going to help us and they are going to help us do these things. So ultimately, it's all going to come down, bite to crunch, this passing, and then sort of making the steps from there. Because until this passes, we can't pursue it any further. But it's looking good. Everything's looking good, and everything is going, for me, as good as it can be. You can't have everything at the end of the day, and this is why we have consensus and voting on consensus. This is the most important thing about our blockchain, right? Is that ultimately everything comes down to a decentralized decision. Even if you do discuss it behind the scenes and you figure things out, you have to bring it to governance. It has to be proposed, it has to be passed, and then you respect that, right, Strafe?
Yeah, even if I don't like things that get passed, I need to accept that it passed. I can moan about it before, but afterwards it's quite pointless.
Yeah, done and dusted at that point. Done and dusted. So, folks, it's been about an hour here. We're not going to drag it on any further, but like I said, we'll keep checking in. We'll keep doing these podcasts when we believe there's, stuff we need to talk about or stuff we want to talk about with you. Then we'll get up and we'll do these things. We'll do the AMA style thing here and there. Not all of the time, not every month, but once every 3 months or something like that. We're not going to be crazy on these spaces or doing Twitter spaces or doing YouTube things. We're just going to be doing things to keep you up to date. Just hearing a straight up response from the two people that are doing all of this behind the scenes and working on it. Folks, goodbye from me and definitely goodbye from Strafe. Anything you want to leave them with, Strafe?
Go voting. No matter what, go voting.
There you go, folks. You've heard it here first. Stay safe, stay humble, stay aware, and like always, we'll catch you in the next podcast.